So this week I've been banging on about recovery, mainly because I've been so surprised by how much I've needed this week. You know, I'm used to being a fairly fit chap, and this week has really taken me by surprise. I mean, it's fairly obvious when you think about it. I haven't really exercised what I would call proper exercise for around about 2 years now. So it's no surprise that I'm coming off the water and I'm broken. But it really has been a big hit to my pride, to be perfectly honest, because, you know, I expected to be able to jump back in and pick up pretty much from where I left off from. And the fact that I've not been able to is why I've been so obsessed by recovery. But there is a deeper message. And in fact, I'm really glad that this has happened in a way, because it leads me to a deeper point. Now, when I was back in the Marines and I was going through training, you know, the Marines was very much an organisation that believed in this idea of no pain, no gain. And we're just going to beast you and beast you and beast you until your body is strong enough to deal with the beastings. The result of that, going through training, we lost half our batch, generally to stupid, pointless, easily avoided injuries. And I personally was less fit after the year of training than I was before I joined, you know, and this was a test done by their medics, by Marine medics, to test my fitness before I went in and after, and I was a lot less fit. So since I've left the Marines, I've been on a mission. You know, that whole ethos in there and the whole way that they train seems so archaic to me. You know, that we just broke all these people, and actually the training itself made us less fit over the course of the year. And the Royal Marines is held up as one of the sort of, you know, highest standards of training that you can get. And it didn't work. Not only did it not work, but it took us backwards. So since I left, I've been on a real mission to try and find out, well, what is a better way of doing it? You know, this really inspired this entire journey that I've been on for about 20 years now, to find a better way of doing it. And what I've seen both in myself, but more importantly with the work with the hundreds of clients that I've done on this, is that there's two things at this stage that we can influence. There's the training and there's the recovery. Now, the reason that I'm looking at recovery, there's two main reasons I'm looking at recovery first. One, because at this early stage in particular, when my body is still fairly weak, it's going to be very easy for me to overdo it and get injured. And getting injured is the last thing I want, because I will not sit on the sofa for 3 months. You know, if I was to sit on the sofa for 3 months, it would set me back in this whole mission by 3 months. You know, I'd be starting again from behind where I am now in 3 months' time. So I'm desperate to avoid getting injured. The other one is that because of the way that kitesurfing is, because we are dependent on the wind, I have to ensure that down the line, I am fully able to take advantage of any wind that there is. And now, as you well know, you know, wind doesn't come nicely one day on, one day off. What will happen is we get 7, 10, 20 days of wind, and then 3-4 days of no wind. Now, so when there are those 20 days, I mean, not now, but in a couple of weeks' time, I want to be in a position where I can get out every day for 20 days. And the key to that is recovering in between. Because unfortunately with kiting, you know, we cannot schedule it. Yeah, I can build in training routines around the kite surfing, but I can't schedule the wind. Now, I want to show you some slides that will hopefully illustrate this. Now, for some of you, this is going to be teaching you to suck eggs. I understand that. But what I want you to understand is that I've understood this for the last 20 years. But as Morpheus says in The Matrix, you know, there's a big difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And I knew all this stuff, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys know this stuff as well. But what I had to ask myself is, well, am I actually doing the things that I know? And in a lot of cases, the answer was no. You know, I've got all this knowledge built up from 20 years of studying this, and most of it I wasn't actually implementing. And that's what I'm trying to do over the course of this year, is implement all this stuff, all this knowledge that I've learned, all this stuff that I've worked with other people on and improved their lives 100%, but have never really applied to my life. And this is a diagram, or these couple of diagrams hopefully illustrate this perfectly. This is basically what happens when we exercise, okay? The stimulus at the top of the diagram is the red dot, is the exercise. When we actually exercise, what we do, and again, I'm sure you know this, we're breaking the muscles down. We are making the body weaker in that moment. We're breaking it apart. And then what happens is you recover, you rest, you chill out, you know, you eat, you do what you need to do, you sleep, you do all those things, and the body rebuilds itself stronger. It overcompensates. Now, an easy way to think about this, going back to cavemen terms, because it's how I like to think of it, you get chased by a tiger. You run at 50 minutes, you're absolutely blown out, and your body goes, whoa, we just, by the skin of our teeth, escaped that. That can never happen again. So what we need to do is rebuild ourselves stronger so that the next time we get chased by a tiger, we escape even easier. So you get this overcompensation, which you can see in the diagram here. And the idea is if you time this perfectly, so if you exercise at the right level, recover properly, get this overcompensation, then the overcompensation is only caused in the recovery period. Notice this is in the recovery period. It's not when we actually exercise. Then over time, you can see the bottom diagram, what happens is if you get this right, your general level of fitness, of strength, whatever you want to say, gets better. But notice the key thing here, you get stronger in the recovery period. You do not get stronger in the exercise period. You are breaking yourself down in the exercise period. Second diagram, this is what happens when we either don't train enough or train too much. Now, the one on the left here shows us what happens if you don't train enough. You leave that recovery period too long, you overcompensate, but then your body gets lazy and you lose that level of fitness. And again, the overall pattern is that you get less fit over time. The one on the right is the one that I'm interested in here, and this is what I'm trying to highlight with the emphasis on recovery. Again, the black dots here represent the stimulus, that's the exercise. So you exercise, your body breaks down, you don't recover enough, and you exercise again before your body has had time to implement this overcompensation, before it's had time to rebuild you stronger. So you exercise again, the body gets broken down again, and again you don't leave enough time to recover. So then you go and exercise again when your body's not fully recovered, you break your body down further, and your body never has time to implement the overcompensation. So over time, you get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And this is what's called overtraining. And I'm sure most of us have experienced this, especially when we start doing something. Let's say, you start going CrossFit and you start with 3 times a week. And then suddenly you have to go on holiday and you notice that you're not really getting any better. And then maybe you go on a holiday for a week and you don't do any exercise. You have good intentions, but it just doesn't happen. And you come back and you're 10 times better. Suddenly the CrossFit class that before was really difficult, you find really tough. Okay, and this is what's happened is your body has overcompensated in that time when you've left for recovery and it's rebuilt yourself stronger. So this is what I'm trying to emphasize to you guys. This is what I'm trying to implement for me is getting this pattern right now. Because you see, if I can get used and get into the habit of recovering like a monster, then I know that in time I'll be able to train at a super high intensity level often as well. And I've got the recovery built in. So it means that when I do get those periods of a lot of wind, of a lot of days of wind, I can take full advantage of it. And I can be spending a long time on the water, confident in the fact that I can recover in between. And again, very, very important for me, without the risk of being injured. Because that's something especially, all through this year, this is going to be a concern. But especially at these early stages, when my body isn't used to it.